Hi everybody, Eva the dietitian here from Tetragen, and today let's talk about nutrition labels. Have you ever picked up a food item, looked at the nutrition label and thought, none of this makes any sense, what do all these numbers mean, what do all these percentages mean? If so, then stay tuned to learn more about how to read a nutrition label, and please feel free to follow along if you have a packet of food with a nutrition label beside you. So first things first, the ingredient list. So the first thing to know is that all the foods on the ingredient list are written in descending order of plentifulness. So what this means is that the ingredient that's written as the first one is the most plentiful and makes up most of the product, and then the second item makes up the second highest amount of the product, and so on. So as an example, I have a tin of beans here. The first ingredient is pinto beans, then water, salt, calcium chloride, and disodium EDTA. So we know that the most plentiful ingredient is beans, and that would make sense because that's what we're buying, followed by water, followed by salt, and followed by calcium chloride. Another really great thing to know about looking at the ingredient list is easily being able to spot the common allergens, which are always written in bold. So whether you have an allergy, whether you're intolerant to a specific food, or just choose to avoid certain foods, knowing that the 14 common allergens are written in bold in the ingredient list makes it really easy to spot these ingredients, so you know if you can eat this food or not. And some examples of the 14 allergens would be things like milk, eggs, soy, and wheat. Okay, and last thing that is very important to know as well on the ingredient list are ingredients that may be harmful to our health and that we should have in moderation or we should avoid completely. So I'm going to go through some of these and the reason that they may be harmful to our health. Partially hydrogenated oil, which is another name for trans fats. So trans fats, they boost the levels of the bad or the LDL cholesterol, and they decrease the good or the HDL cholesterol. Palm oil is a plant source of saturated fat, and we know that for good heart health, a diet low in saturated fat is recommended. And in addition, palm oil has been linked to deforestation in tropical areas. Sodium nitrate is a preservative used to prolong the shelf life of many meat and fish products. And products preserved with sodium nitrate may contain N-nitroso compounds, which have been classed as carcinogens by the World Cancer Research Fund. Aspartame, which is the most widely used artificial sweetener in the world. Aspartame is actually permitted in more than 100 countries. However, there is controversy around the effects of aspartame on our health, particularly because some studies have suggested a link between behavioral and cognitive problems, for example, headaches, anxiety, and insomnia. So whether aspartame is safe for general consumption, that's still debatable due to a lack of consistent data, so more research is needed as a result. Phosphoric acid is used to acidify foods and drinks like jams and Coca-Cola to give them a tangy or a sour taste. And the use of phosphoric acid remains a bit controversial since it has been associated with adverse health effects. For example, if you have poor kidney function, any food additive that has phosphate in it can raise your blood levels of phosphorus and therefore decrease your calcium level and increase the risk of brittle bone disease. MSG, or monosodium glutamate, is one of the most widely used food additives in commercial foods. And MSG gives foods a special aroma, which is known as umami in Japanese. Besides its flavor enhancing effects, MSG has been associated with adverse health effects. These include obesity, metabolic disorders, Chinese restaurant syndrome, and neurotoxic effects. MSG is also a controversial food additive and should therefore be consumed in moderation. Okay, moving on to nutrition facts. So all the nutritional information is written in a table on the back or on the side of a product. The information provided is either written as per serving of a product or per 100 grams of a product, or sometimes both. So the nutrition label will also have the servings per container, which are simply the number of servings in the packet of the food. So I'm going to use my oat milk to demonstrate, and there is a table here with all the nutrition facts, and underneath are the ingredients. So the information that I have is the information per 1 cup, which is 250 mils of the product. So the nutrition information consists of the following. So number 1, we have energy, which is measured in calories. And this is good to track if you are somebody that wants to lose weight. And in order to lose weight, you must be in a calorie deficit. So that means eating less calories than you usually would. So if you eat 2,000 calories every day, you want to reduce it to, for example, maybe 1,500 calories instead. So you're eating 500 calories less per day. And on my oat milk here, the calories per cup or per 250 mils of the product are 130. So if I wanted to lose weight, I could compare maybe a low-fat milk, a full-fat milk, an oat milk, almond milk, and a coconut milk, for example, and see which one has the least amount of calories per cup. Next on the list, we have fats. So if you look at the nutrition label, you'll notice that there is a total fats section with subheadings of saturated fat and trans fats. And we should have as little of those as possible because they have been linked with adverse health effects. You'll also notice that if you add up the saturated and the trans fats, they won't add up to the total fats. And the reason being is that the rest of the fats are simply the unsaturated fats, which are more commonly known as the good fats. On my oat milk here, per cup of the product, I have 5 grams of total fats, 0.5 grams of saturated fat, and 0 trans fats. And they've actually chosen to write down the good or the unsaturated fats, but not all foods products will do that. Next, we have carbohydrates. And those are the foods with grains, fibers, and sugars in the food. So carbohydrates have the subheadings of fiber and sugar. So as a general rule of thumb, the more fiber in a food, the better, because it has many health benefits such as good digestion, keeping our bowels regular, and keeping our gut bacteria healthy. Sugar, on the other hand, is linked with adverse health effects and should be consumed in moderation. And something else that you should be aware of is not just the sugar in the food, but the type of carbohydrates that you're consuming. So if you're eating a food that's high in carbohydrates and very low in fiber, even though the carbohydrates are not labeled as sugar, they will operate in a similar way to sugar in the bloodstream. Remember, this is when there is very little or no fiber in the food. So these will be things like white bread, white pasta, and white rice. Protein is next on the label, and most of us get enough protein just by consuming enough food, so a deficiency is very rare. That said, eating more protein is associated with decreased hunger levels because it keeps us very full. So ensuring you get enough protein could help you with weight loss. Salt is another one that has been linked with adverse health effects such as high blood pressure, so you should aim to have as little as you can. Vitamins and minerals are sometimes actually written on the label, but don't worry about those too much. You should get enough vitamins and minerals just by eating a varied diet and getting enough of your fruits and vegetables. So I hope you notice that in that same table on the right side, there are percentages, and those percentages are known as the daily values of a nutrient. So the FDA, or the US Food and Drug Administration, states that if the percentage daily value of a nutrient is low, it will be 5% or less. And if the percentage daily value of a nutrient is high, it will be 20% or more. So going back to my oat milk here, the nutrients that I'm going to look out for are saturated fats, which are only 3% in the serving, so that's 5% or less, so that's low. Another thing I will look out for are the sugars. So per cup It's 6%, so it's not quite the 5%, but it's pretty close. And all I'll be using this for is probably my coffee, so I won't have the full serving or the full cup, so that's still okay. Another thing I'll look out for is the salt, which is just 5% in that serving. That's considered low. So hopefully you have a better understanding of how to read a nutrition label, and you'll be able to make better choices for you and your family. Thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.